It's alive! It's alive! What's up, RC people? Welcome to the RC channel. I'm the RC guy. Hope you guys are having a good day, staying safe out there. Today I'm going to show you a modification I did to these Jeeps. Well, actually to this Jeep, but this one's going to get it today. I'm going to show you guys how to do it. Every time I drive this Jeep, this is the first thing I get asked about it, so I'm just going to make a video and show you guys how to do it. Now, these are not Rock Hobby Jeeps. These are both Hasbro push toys they used to sell in Kmart back in the late 90s. So these were all modified to be RC, and they didn't start their life out as a RC. They were just a regular push toy. They're the Hasbro 1942 GI Joe Willys Jeeps. So what I did to this one is I made the driver be able to steer with the wheels, and then I also did another modification that slows down the wheels to match the driver's steering. I'll show you what I mean. So here's the radio. I'm going to pin the radio all the way over to the right, and he's going to start turning, and once these wheels meet the maximum turn radius, GI Joe will stop turning the wheel. It doesn't just keep turning like a lot of modifications I've seen on other types of vehicles, not necessarily this Jeep, but when you pin the wheel to the right and the wheels go all the way over, the driver keeps turning the wheel. Whereas on the modification I did, it does 2 complete rotations and then the driver stops turning, and that will be at the same time that these wheels go all the way to the right. So here we go. Here's the radio I'm using. It's a Fly Sky FS GT3C, and this is not done through the radio. This is done through a internal little board I put inside the truck. So I'll turn the radio all the way to the right, and you can see that the wheels turn very slow and scale, and then once they meet all the way over to the right, GI Joe's hand stops turning. So then I'll just let go, and then once they're centered, he stops turning as well. So we'll go to the left, all the way over, and then you can see there he stops turning. Let go, and then he stops. And on this Jeep, let me put the window down, this just has your regular, you can see how much faster that is. So if I turn them both to the right, see how he stops turning, and then I'll let them both go at the same time. Now this does take a little bit of getting used to drive. You have to drive very slow and scale. This modification isn't for everybody. It's only for true scalers. If you don't like driving scale, I really wouldn't recommend that you do this mod to your truck, because it makes it very difficult to drive at higher speed. But both of these trucks are very scale rigs. They're not fast, so that's why I did it to this rig, and I really like how it came out. So today I'm going to do it to this rig, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. I'll try to make the video as short as possible, but it's going to be long. There's a lot of stuff you have to do to get this to work right, and it took a long time for me to figure it out, but I didn't copy this from anybody. I came up with this modification all on my own. So if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Got a lot more cool stuff coming up. So hope you enjoy the video. Just sit back and relax and enjoy it. Okay, there's a few things you're going to need for this modification. First, you're going to need a Y harness. Doesn't need to be very long. And then you're going to want to get this JX Servo. It's model number W4505-4T. It's a 4-turn sailboat winch servo. This is what you use to let the sails in and out. And when you open the box here, it comes with some hardware, which we're not going to use any of. It comes with the drum. And this is typically where your 2 lines would go in. This is for your main sail and then your front sail. But we're also not going to use that. This is all we're going to need is this servo here. W4505, 4-turn. And then you're going to need, this is typically used for airplanes to slow down your flaps or your landing gear. And then on the back here, there's a little connection. You can see those 2 dots there in the corner. You can solder it or leave it open to adjust how fast the servo works once you give it input. And then this is going to plug in to the Y harness. So the Y harness will plug into your steering channel, and then this goes into one side of the Y harness, and this will go into the other side of the Y harness. And then with these 2 potentiometers here, you can adjust how fast the servo will travel, which will be hooked up to your steering servo. We'll plug in here. And then it also, you can adjust how far the wheels turn. So, excuse me, so it's kind of like an endpoint adjustment, and this is how fast the wheels will turn. So you'll need to adjust this top potentiometer to match the speed of this servo, because this servo turns very slowly. So that's what will time your wheels to the driver turning the steering wheel. So let's go ahead and take the hood off and we'll get right into it. So here's the bottom of the Jeep. As you can see, it's definitely not a rock hobby. I had to do some heavy modification to get this to be RC. It has a little transfer case there, you can see, and I inlaid that into the plastic, and then it has all the 4 links mounted to the frame rails. And then I had to use some filled metal. It goes from this bolt to this bolt, and then I pre-drilled all the holes where these links were going to be, and had to tap those holes to fit all these links, because if you just mount them to the plastic's very old and brittle, and it won't hold that much strain. So you have to put some kind of a material inside of the frame rails to get it to hold. And then I'm using the KYX, I think they're called diamond axles, for a bomber or Wraith AR-60 type. So there's the bottom. And then here's under the hood. It's kind of tricky to get it all out. Go. So here I have the LED lights for the dash display, and then that just unplugs. We'll set that aside. Then I have a Bluetooth speaker here that's powered off the truck, and I'm running a Spectrum SR215 receiver. I'm running a axial SCX-10-1 transmission and a Yeah Racing Hakimoto 80 turn brushed motor. I have a Castle BEC right there, running it at 5.5 volts. And then down here at the bottom is my light kit for the blinkers. And I'm just running a super cheap, I think it was a $10 eBay special brushed ESC. And then the output I have going to the transfer case hooked up on the back of the transmission there. So we're going to first disconnect the steering. And we'll set that aside. Let me see if I have a Y harness. We'll get that hooked up. Okay, so the Y harness goes into your receiver. And then on this end, you want to plug in the little circuit board here. And then on the other side of that goes your steering servo. And then on the back here you can see it's got a negative, positive, and out. So you want to plug it in the same as these wires, black on the bottom, white on the top, just like that. So the out is your signal, and then the black or brown, depending on what kind of servo you're using, that goes on the bottom. And then you power up your rig. And then you'll see as it comes from the factory, when you turn the wheel, it has a delay. That's not the mode that we're looking for. So what you want to do is unplug everything, and you want to solder this little you'll see two little squares. You want to solder those together. So I'll do that real quick and then I'll be right back. So before I solder this board up, I'm going to show you the function of this potentiometer. I'm going to turn this all the way counterclockwise, and if you turn it, it functions like a normal steering servo. See there? And then if you turn this all the way clockwise, when you turn it, it increases the delay. See that? We want a more linear delay. We want the wheel to turn slowly, not just snap all the way over. So I'm going to go ahead and solder that, and then I'll show you the difference. Just make sure you unplug your power before you do that. And then we'll put this here just to hold it. And then you just need a little bit. There we go. So now we'll plug our battery back in. And then we'll turn this all the way counterclockwise again. Just like a normal servo. And then we'll go all the way clockwise. And then you can see now we have that linear mode that we're looking for. You let off, see how it comes back slowly. Oh yeah, that's so scale. I love it. So now if you want, you can just leave it like this, and when you're driving your scale rig, you'll have that super sweet scale steering. Oh man, that's so nice. Look at that. And then with this lower potentiometer, we'll turn it all the way counterclockwise, and that reverses the steering. So now I'm going right and it's turning left. So then we'll turn it all the way clockwise, and now we have the correct steering. And then if you back it down just a little bit, it will reduce your throw. See there, it didn't go all the way over. And then if you turn this up, it'll give you your full range of steering. It actually goes more than stock. Man, that's a lot of steering. So we'll turn this down just a little bit. Okay, that's a good spot right there. So if you just want scale steering and not to do the steering wheel mod, that's all you need to do. And you don't need the Y harness, so you can just plug this connection here into your receiver port, plug your steering servo in here, and then it comes with this shrink tube. You put this over it like that and hit it with your hair dryer, and it'll shrink tube that, and you'd be good to go. And if you really wanted to go all out, you could put some of this MG chemical silicone modified conformal coating. Once you have it set exactly where you want it, you could cover this whole circuit board and it would make it waterproof. But my trucks really don't go in the water, so I don't really put that stuff on there. And then once you do that, it will cover these potentiometers and your values will be set. You won't be able to change it once you put that coating on there. And you can see how nice that steering. It's very fluid, very scale. So we're going to continue on and we're going to do the steering wheel modification. So we'll put the servo onto the other end of the Y harness. This is the JX servo. Let me see if I can find a servo horn to put on. So I'm going to put this on here just for now, just to show you guys how to set this correctly. So what you want to do is on this top potentiometer that says time, you want to adjust that to when this stops, your wheels stop. So let's see where we're at now. Turn it all the way. Okay, so we need to set our wheels a little bit faster. A little faster. Ooh, we're pretty close. Really close. Go a little bit faster. We're going counterclockwise to go faster. Nope, we went a little too much. Go back a little bit clockwise. Perfect. See that? Now the wheels match the servo winch. See, when this one stops spinning, these wheels are at their maximum point. Beautiful. Look at how awesome that is. Oh yeah. Okay, so now the next part is we need to mount this. Unplug the power. We can move the truck out of the way for now. And we're going to want to mount that servo winch underneath here on these 2 points. And we're not going to use this old steering column anymore. So we'll take that off. And then the steering wheel just pops off. And then this part we'll just set aside for now. We'll keep that in case we ever want to put the modification back. And then I'll get some parts together and I'll show you guys how to mount this up under the dash here. Okay, so here's our servo. And what I'm going to use to mount this to the rig is a 5th scale servo horn, double-sided horn. We're going to want to drill out this center part, but we'll do that later. And then we're going to want to drill 2 holes to mount to these 2 holes here. So we're going to mount this horn onto these 2 holes. So we'll line it up. And you can see it goes just on the inside of this little ridge here. Right there. And right there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it kind of close. So I'm going to use my little drill here. Alright. Looks pretty good. And earlier I said we're not going to use any of this hardware. We are going to use a couple screws. Let's just test it and make sure that we're close. Okay, let's see how close we got. Pretty good. Alright, so we'll move on to the next step. Okay, next we're going to want to drill a big hole in the middle of this servo horn. I'm using a 1/4 inch drill bit. I don't know if you can read that. Okay, now that we drilled out that hole, we need to make a couple marks, because we're going to want to mount this servo horn to these two mounting locations here. So we'll just set that there. Make one there. And one about there. Perfect. So let's move on to the next step. Okay, I'm using 25mm screws with a 4mm nut. I'm going to put that one in upside down, and then a 3mm nut on top to hold it. The other side. Now, the reason I put those on upside down, as you can see, there's not much room to get to these little screw holes here to mount the servo onto. So you want this to be tilted like that when you mount it on there. You want the front of it to be higher than the back. And these don't need to be super tight. You want them to still be able to turn a little bit. Okay, so we got the bracket mounted on that we made out of our servo horn, and then you can see there that the front of it is angled a little bit. You want the side where the servo wire comes out to be higher up, and then I also drilled out the middle right there. So we'll mount this. This mounts on these two holes. There we go. And then you can see now that angle allows the steering column to come out on an angle like that, just using the tip here as an example. So that's why you want this to be angled on the front, so that the steering column will be able to come out. And then we're going to cut this tab off here. That'll make it look a little cleaner. And then our steering column will sit just like that. So let's move on to the next step, and I'll show you guys how to make this new steering column. So this is what I'm going to use for the steering column. It's a piece of 1/4 inch tubing. This is what I use to make my links out of. And then I'm going to put these brass bushings that come in the knuckles on your front of your RC crawler. You can see it's got a little flanged lip on the end, and these fit in the 1/4 inch tube perfect, so they don't fall through. And then I'm using a piece of 3mm all thread, and that goes in just like that. So this is what's going to turn, and then on the end of the wheel will be sitting like that, and then we'll have a nut, lock nut on either side that will hold the wheel. So let's cut this to length, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so my steering column needs to be 61mm. You can see there I marked it, and I'm going to use this saw I bought from Harbor Freight. It's the Drill Master 2-inch bench top cutoff saw. It's item number 62136. It has a little adjustable jaw here at the bottom, and then a little blade. You can't cut the threaded rod with this, but it'll cut aluminum, but not any harder metals. So that's about where we want to make our cut. As you can see, it leaves it a little bit rough, so we'll just take our file, and you want to file just like that, and then turn the piece as you're passing the file over it. And you can see now it kind of bevels the edge and makes it look real nice. And then on the inside part, you can just take your screwdriver and just give it a quick twist. And it cleans up the inside. And then now we can put our bushings on both sides. Clean this one up a little better. There it goes. Our bushing goes in. The bushing goes in the other side. And the police are coming over because this. So now our bushings are on both sides. And then this will spin nice and free. So now we'll mount the all thread. We'll just screw into the servo. Looks like it's a little chewed up on this side. We'll hit it with the file also. You don't want to force the threads to start, because if it chews up this opening, then the servo is not going to have the grip on this all thread to turn the wheel. There it is, it's bottomed out now. And then we'll put this over the top, put our bushing on. That looks really good. So that's what it'll look like. And then on this bottom part underneath here, once we get it all finished and trimmed in, I like to put some shoe glue or the E6000 glue to hold this from spinning. It makes it a little stronger also. It takes the strain away from this portion of the all thread, kind of spreads out the load. Otherwise this is just going to flop around. You don't want that. And then you also want just a little tiny gap on the bottom right here. You don't want this to be touching, just a tiny little gap. So we'll put this on. And then I'll make a mark here, and I'm going to cut it a little bit longer than it needs to be. And then once we get it all assembled, I'll make a final cut. So I'm going to cut it about right where that mark is, already marked for me. So I'll cut that, and then I'll get it all put together, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I got the first nut on there and a washer. You can see there's a little bit of movement. And then on the inside of the steering wheel, I put these little rubber inserts just to help keep it centered a little bit. Don't really need to do that, but kind of helps keep it in the middle. So push that all down. Put another washer on top. And then the 3mm locking nut. You're going to want to put that on pretty tight. And we'll screw this back in. Okay, we got it all hooked up. You can see there's a little gap at the bottom. So I'm going to bring the truck back onto the bench and then we'll test it out, see how we did. Okay, so here's our little servo speed reducer. It's going to be our other end where we plug in our steering. Just like that. I'll just kind of set this in here for now. Right, you can see the wheel, steering wheel, and our drive wheel. Let's see how we did. See how that moves around a little bit. See how the wheel stops. Oh yeah. Sweet. Oh, there we go. I do see one problem though. Let's see if you guys can notice what it is. This is spinning the wrong way. So I'm going to show you guys how to fix that. What you want to do is go on your radio and go on reverse. We're going to reverse our steering. So now if we go to the right, the wheel is turning the correct way. See that? So if I go right, it should spin clockwise, which we are in the correct way. And then if you go left, it's spinning to the left. See that? But now our wheels are backwards. So what we're going to do is take the little screwdriver that comes with the kit, and then we're going to go here. The top one is time, and then the bottom one is range. So we're clockwise now. We're going to move this counterclockwise and back it off just a little bit. And now let's try it. Oh baby, look at that. Woo! Now we're turning. Now we're firing on all cylinders. Look at that, Jack. Turn it to the right. You can see it's proportional also. The wheel just turns the same as the steering. And then if you let go, oh butter, look at that. Oh, that's so sweet. See if you go left or right as you're working your steering. Oh, that's so sweet. So sweet. Sweet, sweet success. Yeah. So, all you guys that ask me, hey, how'd you make that steering work? Just like that. See, it's nice and even. And if you let go, perfect, perfect, perfect. Nice and scale. Oh, that came out so good. So that's it. Now you just got to clean all this up. We're going to cut this tab off here. I'll show you guys the light. See if I can find the plug where that went. It's in here in this mess somewhere. Here it is. We'll hit the dash lights. There we go. You can see the dash is all lit up. That's with it on. See how much nicer that looks? And it's got the, if you guys can see that, the gauges are all, has the miles per hour, fuel, oil pressure, all that stuff. Oh, I'm so happy with how this came out. So we'll get this cut, we'll clean everything up, get everything back installed, and then I'll show you guys how I modify his arm. We're gonna have to cut him up a little bit, and then we'll mount his hand to the steering wheel so he'll actually turn the rig. Yeah! Alright, so we got the wheel working good. I just need to trim this a little bit and then hook his arm up to the wheel. So let's get started with that. Alright, as you can see, this is not very bendy and it's not going to give a real natural movement. So I'm going to replace his arm with some of this silicone tubing. I'll show you guys how to do that. There we go. Make sure you don't damage this part. This is the only part you need to not damage. Okay, the next you want to bend the zip tie so it will stay open a little bit, but you want to leave like a hoop on the end. And you want this part to be closer to the steering wheel. Just like that. So this can move freely. Then you want to cut a piece of this hose about the same length as his arm. That's the upper part. Just like that. Then slide it up the zip tie. That, and then bend, make this part easy to bend. That's going to be his elbow. Kind of just work it back and forth. You're going to want to cut another piece like that. Then you're going to want to cut You want to cut his hand off. Be really careful not to break this. Alright, I got the hand freed out. I'm just going to cut this little end piece we don't need. And put it into the tube like that, and then I'm going to measure about right there, and then cut these corners off a little bit. You don't want them to wear through the tubing. Hand's going to be like that. So now it's got a lot more movement. See there? Now I can easily turn all the way around. So the next step is we're going to drill a hole right there between his two fingers, and then we're also going to drill a hole right here and put a small screw through there, and that will be like the suicide ball where he'll actually hold on to the wheel on the top part. So let's do that next. Okay, here's the hardware I'm going to use. I think that's a 2mm bolt, a regular nut, a lock nut, and then this is comes in the servo pack. This will actually go in his fingers here so that the bolt doesn't wear through the plastic. Just keep it from wearing through. And then this will go through the steering wheel with the regular nut on top, and then this lock nut will go under his hand there. So let's get it all drilled out and put in. Alright, that looks pretty good. Okay, have it mounted on. See, it's on there good. There's a little bolt and the nut holding it on. Let's see how it works. Oh yeah, that looks so sweet. See how it's bending right there where we made that cut? It's really important to use two pieces and bend the zip tie. Makes it look really natural. Oh, that came out super nice. Oh, that's so sweet. So we just need to trim this piece here and then button everything up, and then we'll see what we got as a finished result. Alright, we got the screw trimmed up that was coming through the steering wheel. Got his hand mounted up, his shirt's back on, everything's all buttoned up. Let's give it a test. Looking pretty good. And then if you want to go slow, Came out really nice. I'm super happy with it. The wheel and the steering wheel speed are matched perfect. If you're into scale crawling, this is a mod you might want to consider doing to your rig. Really makes it stand out. Gives it that really scale look. Slows your wheels down. Makes it look a lot more realistic. And then using that silicone tubing, the two parts for his upper arm and his lower arm, really makes that elbow right here, that bend, makes it look really good. It'll smooth out a little bit too as that zip die starts to break in, but even still it looks really, really good. I'm super happy with it. Came out nice. So that's it for today. Hope you liked the video. Give it a like, thumbs up, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.